machines, that is any two machines which are communicating. And if it is a multi-point connection, then there is no direct connection, but the two computers which are connecting or which are communicating with each other are connected via multiple points. So if it is a point-to-point communication, the protocol operates at a data link layer. So as it operates on a data link layer, what is happening is it operates or it communicates in the form of a frame. So for every data that comes from a network layer in a form of a packet, it converts that packet into a frame. It adds a source address and a destination address, which is nothing but the networking address, along with the data, and transmits it to the destination machine. It is used to connect home PCs to the server via a device called as modem. So if I want that point-to-point communication to enable inside the system, I have to use a networking device called as modem. So we know what was modem. It stands for modulator and demodulator, which performs a function of modulation and demodulation, that is converting analog to digital and digital data back into analog. Then we had also seen what are the two functions of point-to-point protocol. Whenever I want the devices or whichever devices are connected with a PPP connection, it has to first establish a link between the devices. And once if the link is established, it has to maintain that link unless and until the data transfer is completed. Then we had also seen what are the services which are provided by PPP connection. First is what it makes a format of a data in a form of a frame. After that, it establishes the link, it maintains that link. Along with that, it adds the source and the destination address, networking address. Along with that, it also adds authentication. Now, those authentication can be of any type, password protected, or it can be cryptography, or it can be hashing, or any other authentication method can be used for authenticating the data at both the ends. Then we had seen that if we want to set up a point-to-point connection in our system, what we have to do is we have to purchase a modem. Once the modem is being purchased, we have to connect one end of the modem to the system and the other end to the modem itself. Then we have one more connection to the telephone line. So the hardware settings which we have to do for that modem in our system is we have to go to the computer, click on control panel and go to the phone and the modem tab. When we go to the modem tab, if a modem is already added inside the system, it will show you the list of added modems inside the system. But if at all it is not added, you have to click on this add button. Once you click on this add button, it will show you the hardware wizard, which will ask you to install the modem inside the system. So what are we supposed to do is we are supposed to click on a checkbox which says that I do not want the system to detect the modem for me. I will be selecting a modem on my own. Now, why do I do this? So that I identify the communication port on which my modem is connected and on which the communication will be happening with the help of that modem. But if I do not check this box, what will system do? The system still will install a modem, but it will select a communication mode on its own or a communication port on its own. After I click on next, it will ask me to identify the name of a modem on the right hand side, that is a manufacturer of a modem. After that, it will ask me to select that what is a model. It is a model which is communicating the two devices with the help of a cable. I simply have to click on that button and say next. When I say next, it will ask me or it will give me the list of all the identified communication ports which are right now free for using that modem. So whichever is free, I have to select any one and start the communication by using that communication port. After I click on finish, I have to also see what is the speed that my modem is providing, or I also have to set the speed by which my modem will be operating. So to do that, again, I have to go to that phone and a modem tab. I have to select the modem which I have just installed and click on the properties. When I click on properties, it will ask me to set the property of a port speed as 38400 bits per second. So my modem will be transmitting the data by using how many bits per second, or it will be operating at the speed of 38400 bits per second. After I set this, I same have to check whether it is being added by default in the advanced tab or not. So I just have to go to the advanced tab, click on change the default preference and check whether the speed which I have set previously has been added over here or not. If the same speed is added, you do not have to do anything, simply click on OK. But if the speed does not match, again from this drop down box, you have to select the speed as 38400 and then click on next. Then we had seen what do you mean by modem. It stands for modulator and demodulator, where modulator part converts the digital data into analog data, and your demodulator converts analog data back to the digital data. So we had seen this diagram that there are two computers, A and B, communicating. Both of them have a communicating device, modem, with them. Modem is connected via a telephone line. So since it is a telephone line, it is going to understand only the analog signals, whereas these computers A and B understands only digital signal. Therefore, the conversion of this digital to analog and analog to digital is done by whom? It is done by this modulating device. Okay. So this computer A sends a digital signal to this modem. Modem will convert this digital signals into analog, transmit the analog data over this telephone line to the modem which is there at the computer B side. Again, this modem will receive the analog data. Since it has to give this analog data to this computer, as a computer does not understand that analog data, it will be converting the analog signals into the digital signal and then transmitting the digital signal at the receiving end. So this both modem at both the sides, that is at the source and the destination side, will be performing an operation or will be performing the function of modulation and demodulation, which is nothing but converting a data from digital to analog and again back from analog to digital. When we had seen that the data frame which is being prepared by the PPP connection at the data link layer includes your data that you have to transmit. Along with that, it includes the network address, which is the source and the destination address, which specifies the start and the stop bit. So every data is transmitted in the form of such packets from the source machine to the destination. Then we had also seen that there are 4 different types of computer modems. The first is the onboard modem. That means it is there inside the system itself. You do not have to purchase any extra material for it. You just have to give an internet connection or a service provider connection. Once that connection is enabled into your system, you can start using the net. Second one is internal modem, where you go and purchase a network card and you install it onto the PCI slot of your motherboard, and then you start using the service. And the other 2 is external or removable modem, which is something like this, where you are installing it or you are purchasing the entire networking device and you are making or configuring the connection with your system by using that networking device. Today we'll be starting with a second concept, which is called as leased line or a leased line access. Now we have already seen a point-to-point connection, which is also a dedicated connection. But I can communicate by using that dedicated connection in a public network. Public network means anybody with whom I have a PPP connection, I can transmit and receive the data. So nothing is private. Everything is on the public network. Whereas when I see a leased line access, what is there on the leased line access? It is used for a private communication. But which type of private communication? It is a private voice as well as data communication, which means it will be allowing us to transmit the data which is private in analog signal as well as data which is private on the digital signals. So many of us might have heard a term called as VPN, virtual private network. We will be studying this in the 6th lesson. So your leased line is same as that of the virtual private network. That means I am creating my own network, which is very private. Maybe it has been used by your some office department, internal departments, and where only secure data is being transmitted from one machine to another machine. The data can be either a voice data or a digital data. But the only difference between the leased line and the virtual private network is that your leased line is little expensive as compared to virtual private network. Therefore, many of the offices whom they want to communicate privately do not make use of leased line, but they make use of a VPN. Why? Because it is much cheaper as compared to your leased line. Okay. So what is your leased line? It is nothing but a dedicated line which is connecting the 2 locations. Connecting a 2 location means a computer, 2 computers or 2 different computers at different locations. But how are they connected? Again, it is connected in a dedicated form. What are they used for? They are not used for public communication, which was happening in PPP. Though PPP is also a direct dedicated line, but your leased line is also dedicated, but it is for communication used for communication which is private. What type of private data can be exchanged? Voice data, which is nothing but analog, as well as the data as well as the digital data. Now it is much expensive as compared to your PPP connection and a virtual private network connection. But what is the advantage of using a lease line is that it has more speed because of the cable. More speed because of the cable is, first of all, it is dedicated from one end to another end, and second, it is only private. That means I'm not including any public network, or I'm not transmitting the data via any public network. It is directly from one end to another end, which is very private, and it is not getting connected to any of the public network. Therefore, the speed which I get in the lease line is more as compared to the speed in the PPP. Again, the speed of your lease line and the virtual private network will be same. But in comparison to both, the one why we are using VPN is only because to save the cost. Okay. Next is, what are the uses of this lease line? What does it do is it provides us with the internet access. So like how we have PPP, which provides internet access, similarly we can get an internet access through lease line also. It is used to link the computers and servers together from multiple locations. So you can have computers which are within some specific buildings or outside of buildings or somewhere out in a different city also. So you can connect computers which are there at any corner by using that dedicated line. What it is used for? It is used for making the phone calls, which is nothing but voice communication. And it is also used for streaming multimedia. Streaming multimedia means digital data. So it is used for analog data also, and it is used for communicating the digital data also. But whatever data is communicating, the data is communicated by using that own personal private network. I am not getting connected to any of the virtual network. Okay. So what is lease line? It is nothing but a dedicated communication channel which can easily connect any of the two computers. Okay. Now what are they used for? They are used for making the calls. They can link the two computers which are at the different end. But why are these used? They are generally, why do we do this? So that we get a good internet connectivity between the two computers. Okay, now what did I say? The difference between the VPN and the lease line is that the VPN is more cheaper as compared to the lease line. Okay, now what are the advantages that a lease line provides us are over your VPN? Okay, first is that the connection is faster, or the speed is faster, which we have in the VPN also, but sometimes it gets affected, but major of the time it is equal. Second is, it is very easy to access the lease line as compared to accessing of your VPN. Second, the signal range which is provided is always stronger as compared to that of your signal provided by your virtual private network. But only the disadvantage of your lease line is low latency. What is low latency? Sometimes there is a delay in delay in delivering of a data to the destination machine. Though it is private, but it has been observed that there is a latency which is low when I connect computers by using a lease line, but I receive a good latency when I connect a network by using a VPN. Now again, this latency depends upon the type of the service provider that you have selected, because your internet service provider might differ and the speed also might differ. Many a times if I am connected to my router also, if a router says that it provides 25 Mbps, but if you actually check it, it might provide you 20 Mbps or 15 Mbps. So this again keeps on changing, or the latency keeps on changing depending upon what is the service provider from where you are getting the network connectivity. Okay, is this understood up till here? Is the lease line part understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now what is happening is, how is this lease line working? This lease line makes use of a concept called as fiber optic communication. Now, have you heard have you learned about the three types of communication system you had in the CN? Twisted pair, which was shielded, unshielded. Then one of them was your fiber optic communication. Did you remember what was happening in fiber optic communication? The transmission of the data was by using the pulses of light. So whenever the data is transmitted, that is zeros and ones is transmitted, how is that 0 and 1 transmitted? It is transmitted in the form of pulse of light. So So what is that pulse of light? It is nothing but indicating 0 and 1. So when the light is coming, that means the data 1 is received, and when the light is off, the data 0 is received. So how is this lease line working? Your lease line works by sending the pulses of light. And this pulses of light concept is used by the fiber optic cables. So whenever I'm having this private communication between the two systems, where is that internet coming, or from where the data is coming? The data is coming from those fiber optic cables which are installed at the specific locations. So the communication medium or the communication type which is used by the lease line is fiber optic communication. Okay. Now next is the dial-up access. So we have seen what is PPP connection. We have seen a lease line connection. We also know little bit about VPN now as compared to your the lease line. Both are same. Both are providing a private connection to us, which allows us to transmit voice as well as data. But many of them prefer VPN because of the high receiving of the data and the low cost. And I do not generally prefer lease liners because of its cost, more cost. Now, what is this dial-up access? Now, dial-up access refers to connecting a device to a network via a modem and a public telephone network. So I have this, that means this dial-up access is somewhat similar to your PPP connection. There also I'm connecting the devices over the network. Here also I'm connecting the devices on the network. There also devices are connected by using a network, by using a modem, and they are working on the PSTN, that is public switch telephone network. So here also dial-up access, we are connecting the devices by using a networking device called as modem, which operates on a public switch telephone network, that is PSTN. We can connect two ends of the computer. Two ends of the computer means two computers can be connected by having this interconnectivity device called as modem. But the quality of the connection is not always good. Now again, if it is dial-up connection, if you see it is written the quality is not good. So if I want to select between PPP and dial-up access, I will never use dial-up access. I will always choose over PPP. What is the one reason behind this is the connection of your PPP is more better as compared to this dial-up access. Okay. Now why is this? That we will see ahead. It uses a facility of PSTN. Now what was that PSTN? Public switch telephone network. Whenever you dial a number, that number is getting connected to the intermediate base stations, and then it is getting connected to your final destination machine. The user's computer uses an attached modem to encode and decode the data. So between both the computers, I have a networking device which is modem, and by using that modem, I'm going to enable the communication between both the devices. Okay. Now, what is the difference in dial-up access or a dial-up internet service and your PPP connection is that it allows the connectivity, that is a dial-up access, allows the connectivity to the internet through a telephone line. So wherever I have a modem, I'm definitely going to have a telephone line. So what is happening is by connecting this telephone line to the modem, and then modem is getting connected to your computer. Okay, so one end of your modem cable is to the computer, another end is to the modem itself, and there is one more wire which is from the modem to the telephone line. Okay, who is going to provide you the service? The network connectivity will be the service provider, the internet service provider. Now, what is happening? Whenever you want to connect to an internet, you first have to dial the number from the telephone. Once the number is dialed up, you will have a connectivity with the service provider, and then the connection will be provided to your modem. I repeat, the difference in PPP connection and dial-up access is, in both the cases, two computers can communicate. In both the cases, you have a connecting device which is modem. In both the cases, you have a telephone devices. But in PPP, your internet connectivity is directly given by the service provider to your modem device, and you do not have to dial any number over there. Whereas if it is a dial-up access, what I have to do is to get the internet connectivity, I have to first use the number, dial that number from my telephone device. After that, I have to take the connectivity from internet service provider, and then the connectivity will be enabled on my modem phone. So the dialing of a number which is happening in the dial-up access is not happening in PPP. Therefore, it is named as dial-up access. So you dial up the number and then take the access of the internet service. Is this clear? Both the things, both the concepts are same, but only the difference is I do not have to dial for any connectivity in PPP, but I have to dial for the connectivity in dial-up access. Is this clear up till here?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we have seen 4 concepts: point-to-point PPP connection, that is point-to-point communication, which is similar to your dial-up access. Why it is similar? Because at both the ends we are using the same devices, only the working is different. Other 2 things which we have learned is lease line and virtual private network. The dial-up and your PPP is used for public network, and your lease line and virtual private network, VPN, are used only for communicating within the private network. They will never communicate over the public network. In that VPN and in lease line, what is happening, what is the difference is, both of them are going to provide with the voice data and digital data communication, but the VPN is more preferable because of the good connectivity and because of the low cost. Okay, so these are the 4 types of communications, or a medium through which an internet can be connected, and it can be enabled on your computer system so that the 2 computer system can communicate with each other. Now, how do you configure this PPP connection onto your Linux? What do you do is you have to first install PPP. After your installation of, how do you install that? You have to execute a command called as sudo apt get installed PPOE conf. What is this conf? PPOE, that is point-to-point communication configuration. So if I want to install this PPP in the Linux, I will require that modem part. Hardware part will remain same. Only what changes you have to do is, if it is GUI, again the procedure will be same. But if you want to do it through a shell or through a terminal, these are the commands that you have to execute to install or to start the PPP connection. So to install that PPP connection onto your Linux system, you have to first execute this command for installing. What is that command? Sudo apt get installed PPPoE conf, that is configuration of your PPP service. First, it will ask you whether it after this is installed, it will ask you whether have you logged in as a root user or not. If you have logged in as a root user, it will allow you to continue with the installation. But if you are not a root user, what you have to do is you have to switch a user. Switch a user means if you have to take the password of a root, or a root can make you a super user. Root can make you a super user means root can give you the rights of admin, and then it will allow you to install this. Okay. So if you know the password of root, directly give the password and continue with the installation. If not, switch user, and switch user take rights from the admin user and start the installation. So when I do SUPPPECONF/, it will continue with the installation. What it will do is it will automatically scan for all the devices and ask for modifying the PPPoE file. Where is this PPOE file? It is there inside your /etc folder. Who has to do this? It will be done automatically. Once your modem is being scanned, why is this scanning done? To check whether you have installed that modem into your system or not. Once it has checked and scanned that the installation of the modem is done, or the attachment of the cable with the system and the modem is done, it will automatically modify the file, which is the PPP file, inside your etc folder. You simply have to click on yes and allow the file to be modified by the system. After this, it will ask you to enter the username and password to give that has to be used during the PPP login. Now, what is this? You have to set a username and the password. Why is this username and the password set? This username and the password is set so that whenever you open the internet connectivity into your computer, it will first ask you for the login and the password. So if you give a proper login and the password which you have given over here, it will allow you to access. Now, many a times, if you have seen in our labs, it provides you with the firewall window. So if you give the correct ID and the password, your internet starts. So same thing is there with your PPP also. It will not be the firewall window, but it will be the point-to-point connection login. Why this is done? Because you are getting connected only to one dedicated computer. PPP is point to point. So one computer is connected through a dedicated line to another computer. So to just verify the details, you have to give this login. So at this particular time, you are only setting the username and password, and you have to keep this remember, so that whenever you try to access the internet from the same computer, you have to use the same ID and the password. So once if you have done this setting, your PPP configuration has been installed. It has modified all the required files which are to be changed in your etc folder. You simply have to open your browser. Once you open the browser, it will ask you for the username and the password which you have supplied here. If both of them matches, it will allow you to access the internet. Okay, so this is what you have to do when it is a Linux used inside your, or if it is a Linux operating system. The hardware part will remain same. Only the changes, even if your Linux is GUI based, everything will remain same. But if you want to use a terminal or install it by using the command, so these are the two commands which you are supposed to use for installing or for configuring the point-to-point connection inside your system. Okay, is this clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now next we'll be starting next topic as proxy server. Now what is proxy server? We have seen up till now that for communication we require two devices. One will be client server, or it will be a source and a destination, where the data is transmitted from one machine to another and another to one machine, the previous machine. Now what is happening in a proxy server? Whenever I request, if I am a client, whenever being a client, if I request something, the data is getting, or my request is getting directed to the server. Server will look at the details, whatever is being asked for by the client, and server will give a reply back to the client. But what is happening? The client has an IP address from where the data is being requested. Similarly, the server will also have an IP address so that the client can understand from where the data is being coming from. But in between this communication, or in between these two devices, I have one more device, or I can have multiple such devices called as proxy server. If you see this diagram, I have a client machine, I have a destination machine, or I can have a client or I can have a server. In between these two devices, I have something called as proxy, web proxy, or a proxy server. Like this, I can have multiple proxy servers. But here in the diagram, it is shown as one, but in the common scenario or in the natural scenario, you may have multiple web servers or multiple proxy servers installed. Now what is happening? A client is sending a request with an IP address 10.1.1.1. A request is for what? A request is, say, suppose for what it is written here, www.example.com. This website a client has to visit. Now what will happen when a client gives this request? It won't get directly connected to this server. And then the server will not directly search for this www.example.com and give it back to the client. What will happen? This request which a client has sent from a machine 10.1.1.1 will first go to the web proxy, or it will go to the proxy server. What will proxy server do? Proxy server will change this 10.1.1 to some new address, say suppose 20.1.1.1, and then the request will be forwarded ahead to the server. So what will server understand? That a request has not come from 10.1.1.1, but it has come from 20.1.1.1, which is what? Which is nothing but the proxy servers or intermediate machines, but it is not the intended client from where the request has come. Why this is done, or why this thing is done, or why this is a use of proxy server? Just to hide the details that who is the client and who is the server. Okay. Again, when this www example sends a request, or when the server machine sends a reply, the reply does not go directly to 10.1.1. Where it will go to 20.1.1.1. So when this goes to 20.1.1.1, this 20.1.1 will have the address of the server. Say suppose the address of server is 30.1.1.1. So this server will not transmit the data with the IP address as 30.1.1.1. It will transfer with the address 20.1.1.1. So at both the ends, what details are being shared? that IP address is 20.1.1. Here also the address is 20.1.1. But ये 20.1 address किसका है? It is the address of the proxy server. So by doing this or by installing this proxy server, what is happening? I am not going to know who is the client. So sorry, server will never know who is the client, and client will never know who is the server. Okay. So just to enable the security feature, or just to enable the hiding of the client and the server, the use of this proxy server is being used. Okay. Many a times in between this proxy server and the server, I will also have a firewall. So what will this firewall do? It will perform the functions of translation, monitoring, conversion, filtering. All this work will be done over here. So even if the data which is requested from this client has reached to the proxy server, and from proxy server, when it is going to this server, what is happening in, because of this firewall which is installed in between, the data is getting filtered and it is going to the server. So when it is getting filtered means what? It is completely secured. Why it is completely secured? Because it is coming from this public network and it is entering inside the private area of your server. So to avoid this security problems, or to avoid this any disaster problem, you have your firewall always installed between the proxy and between the server. Okay. So have you understood what is proxy server? It is a device which will hide the details of the client and the details of the server, so that the server and the client do not know each other from where the data is being coming from. Is this understood? A proxy server is a server that sits between the client application, that is a web browser from which the client is sending the request, and it is sitting between the real server. It intercepts all the requests to the real server to see if it can fulfill the request itself. If not, it forwards the request to the real server. Okay. What is the purpose of proxy? It is used for monitoring, filtering, improving the performance, translation, and security. What is monitoring and filtering? Content filtering is done and encryption of data is done. So what is happening, if you see the diagram which is shown over here, proxy server is knowing who is the client by this IP address 10.1.1. Proxy server is also knowing who is the server by the IP address 30.1.1. But to avoid this details from both of them, what it is doing, it is filtering the data as well as it is encrypting the data, so that none of them knows who is the machine from where the data is coming and who is the machine from where the request was coming. So this work of monitoring and filtering and encryption is done by the server machine. It is not, sorry, it is done by the proxy server, and it is not done by your real server, neither it is done at the client end. And it is used for improving the performance. How it is used for improving the performance? It fastens the service by process of retrieving the content from the cache, which was saved when the previous request was made by the client. Now, if you again see the diagram, what was happening? 10.1.1 requested for www.example.com. अभी ये सर्वर ने ये साइट ऑलरेडी प्रॉक्सी सर्वर को भेज दिया है. So what will proxy server do? It will save it inside its own cache memory. Now, when another client with a IP address 40.1.1.1 requests for the same page, www.example.com, what will this proxy server do? It will not connect this client to this server for the page. Since the page is already there inside its own cache memory, it will retrieve the page from there itself. Okay, so what is happening? By using this, my performance is increased by not unnecessarily forwarding the request to the server, taking the data from the server, again changing the IP address and giving it to the main machine. It is happening via, or it is happening in between the intermediate proxy server and the client machine. So this is how I can improve the performance by installing a proxy server in between the main server and the client machine. So whatever pages are requested, and once that pages are coming from the real server end, what is a proxy server going to do? It will store it inside its own memory. So if at all in future, if that request comes, it is going to give that request directly from its own machine. If it has removed from the cache, then it has to directly connect via the proxy server to the real server. Okay. Then next is the translation. What is translation? It is nothing but the data conversion. So if at all a request is coming from any particular any type of communication that we have studied over here. So if it is coming from dial-up access or a lease line or VPN or anything like this, where I have conversion of analog to digital and digital to analog, that type of function is also provided at your proxy server. So what will be happening is, if suppose I have a machine which is using a modem, so what will this proxy server do? It will request or the modem, or it will install a modem with its own server, and then it will provide a data connection or a data conversion from this machine to the modem which is connected to the client machine, and then that modem will be connected to the modem of the proxy server, and then the conversion will be happened at this intermediate server. Okay, so whatever we have studied, this concept over here, this concept same can be applied, where this will be your client and this will be your proxy server. So at the proxy server I have modem. So if at all there is any analog communication coming from this part of the client, I can always convert it into the digital data and provide that data conversion, or I can provide the digital data to the client machine. So data conversion is also possible if it is, even if it is a proxy server installed in between the real server and the client. Then last is the security. Since the proxy server hides the identity of the user, hence it protects from the spam and the other hacking attacks. So since I have this proxy installed over here, and as I know that it is going to change the IP addresses of both the machines, so even if there is a attack in between this to this communication, I will never know that who is the real server who has sent the data. Or even if there is an attack over here, the attack over here will never be possible because I have already firewall installed over here. But if in case there is any kind of attack over here also, I will never come to know, or that attacker will never come to know who was the client from where the data was transmitted, because your proxy server is doing what? It is changing the IP address of the client and then forwarding the request. Okay. So security is also provided by your proxy server. So the 4 functions, that is monitoring and filtering, improving the performance, doing the data conversion, that is translation, and the security, all is provided by your proxy server, which sits between the client and the real server. Okay, is this understood?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now next we have two types of proxy server. One is the application proxy server and another is the SOX proxy server. Now what is this application proxy server? It is the one which we just studied now. Application means what? I am requesting something to visit a particular web page, which is an HTTP request. So whenever you type any URL, it is always https www.soandso.com. Again, if it is a next request, it is https. So whenever I use a HTTPS, or whenever I make any request to a server for any particular web page, and if it is getting connected to an intermediate proxy, what is that intermediate proxy called? It is called as application proxy. So the diagram over here, which is this proxy, it is nothing but the application proxy, or it is also called as web proxy. Why? Because the request which was coming from the client end to the server was a request for a web page. What was that web page? https www.example.com. So whenever I request for any data, say suppose searching for some information on a Google, what does that request go? https www.google.com. So do I know where is the main server of a Google? No. What is happening? My machine is getting connected to the intermediate application proxies, who is changing my IP address, then transmitting it to another proxy, or maybe getting transmitted to the real Google server. Again, when the data is coming back to me from Google server, do I know that was that exactly a server or not? No, it is coming to me from the intermediate application proxy. Okay. Next is the SOX proxy. What is the SOX proxy? It is an internet protocol that exchanges the network packets between the client and the server through a proxy server. That means the proxy server here now will be a SOX proxy, which is transmitting the packets from client to server and server to client. But only the difference in application and SOX will be that in application I'm requesting for the web pages, But apart from web pages, if I request for any particular file, any folder, any software, or any other application, my request is transmitted to the SOCKS proxy, which is operating at the transport layer of OSI. Okay. So this intermediate proxy keeps on changing depending upon what type of request has come from the client. If the request is of web page, it will redirect it to the application proxy. But if a request is for some application or for some files or folders or software, it will redirect to which proxy? Redirect to the SOCKS proxy. Where is that SOCKS proxy? Operating on the transport layer. That means this device will be installed on which layer between the client and the machine? Server machine. It will be on the transport layer of the in between the client and the server machine. Okay, so that is the difference between your SOCKS proxy and the application proxy. If there is any, if suppose this can never be a scenario, but if suppose I do not have an application proxy in between the client and the machine, I will never get the desired page which I have requested for. Why? Because it has been told that the client cannot directly connect to the server. It has to connect via the proxy. If I do not have an application proxy in between, I will never be able to load that particular page on my side. But this generally never happens. It will only happen if the connectivity is down. But your application, the proxy servers are always installed between the client and the real server machines. Okay. Is this understood? What is a proxy server and what is the difference in application and SOCKS proxy? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So I think with this, we have completed with the 5th lesson. Just let me check the syllabus once. Yes. So with this, we have completed with the 5th lesson of your Linux. Difference between SOCKS 4 and SOCKS proxy 5 is configuration difference. Atharva. Whenever you take a server, the server has different configurations. So that how we have different versions of a particular application. Similarly, SOCKS 4 has different configurations of server as compared to SOCKS 5. Please go through the syllabus. I think I have covered everything. Still, if something is missing. Covered, no, everything? Are you all sleeping? Have I lost the connection? Hello? Are you all there?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Replying.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, give me your attendance. Meet.
Yes, ma'am.
Nikunj.
Yes, ma'am.
Chris. Yash H.
Present, ma'am.
Shivam. Darshil.
Present, ma'am.
Paresh.
Present, ma'am.
Harsh.
Present, ma'am.
Parva.
Present, ma'am.
Atharva.
Present, ma'am.
Sakshi.
Present, ma'am.
Palak. Shubh.
Present, ma'am.
Omkar. Omkar. Tejasvi.
Present, ma'am.
Om. Om absent. Amol.
Yes, ma'am, present.
Amol, why are you not regular for your lectures?
Ma'am, actually, I was not aware yesterday about lecture. That's why.
Why you are not? You are there on the classroom. No, I post everything
Yes,
on
ma'am.
the classroom.
Yes, ma'am. Last day I forgot to check the classroom, so that's why.
Okay. Om present, Amol present, Abdul, Jeet, Jeet, Yash present, Rushank, Smith,
Present, ma'am.
Atharva, Yash,
Present, ma'am.
Anuj, Mustafa,
Present, ma'am.
Shweta, Shweta, Krupa, Krish,
Present, ma'am.
Dhruv,
ma'am. Present, ma'am.
Darshan,
Present, ma'am.
Bhavik, Tejas,
Present, ma'am. Present, ma'am.
Jaini, Jainam,
Present, ma'am.
Jaini absent, Jainam present, Jay,
Present, ma'am.
Vaishnavi present. Who else has given present here? Falak. Where were you, Falak, when I called your number?
Ma'am, my mic was off. Sorry.
Ah. Soham,
Present.
Kulashri, Jalpriya, Jalpriya absent, Javik,
Present, ma'am.
Javik,
Present, ma'am.
Huzefa,
Present, ma'am.
Sonu, Parth,
Present, ma'am.
Parth,
Present.
Sonu absent, Parth present, Jayesh,
Ma'am, I am present.
तो बोला क्यों नहीं? जयेश एब्सेंट, आदित्य,
हाँ मैम प्रेजेंट.
उमेश,
प्रेजेंट मैम.
केयूष, निशा
Present.
जूही प्रेजेंट, अदिति,
Present, ma'am.
प्रांजलि प्रेजेंट, आदित्य शाह प्रेजेंट, नीरव एब्सेंट, अली, निष्ठा, दानिश
प्रेजेंट. प्रेजेंट.
श्रेयस
Present, ma'am. Present, ma'am.
रामेश
Present, ma'am.
जय,
प्रेजेंट मैम. प्रेजेंट मैम.
विवेक, प्रथमेश,
प्रेजेंट. प्रेजेंट मैम.
गुरकिरत,
प्रेजेंट मैम.
ऋतुजा, नेहल,
Present, ma'am. Present, ma'am.
विरल प्रेजेंट, मयूर,
प्रेजेंट मैम.
साक्षी, शुभम, यश एंड निकुंज,
प्रेजेंट मैम.
Present, ma'am.
साक्षी,
Present, ma'am.
संस्कार,
शुभम प्रेजेंट.
किरण,
Present, ma'am.
प्रेजेंट मैम.
जयेश is present,
मैम शुभम विल बी
शुभम present, okay, where is Jayesh? Okay. Now on. किसका तो mic. I think we are meeting on Monday again, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Monday again, 9 o'clock. Just a minute. What time do I have lecture? Please check.
10:30 to 11:30.
10:30.
हाँ, तो we will be meeting at 9 o'clock again, and we'll start with 6th lesson. And on Tuesday, I have 2 lectures. So on Tuesday, we'll take test on 5th lesson. Okay? Monday,
Okay, ma'am.
Monday 9 o'clock. We'll start with 6. Tuesday, first Again at 9 o'clock we'll continue with 6, and then like yesterday 12 o'clock we'll take 5th chapter's test. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. See you on Monday. You all can leave.